Hello and welcome back once again to CBR MTG. My name is Angus Mackay and I'm joined here by Dan Schuler.
Hey guys.
And today we are playing a little bit of Titan Shift versus Red Green Tron. Now Dan, this is actually your list if I'm not mistaken. James Caesar's piloting it for you expertly.
Sure is.
How does what everyone knows about Tron?
Yep.
What makes your deck different?
Well, everyone seems to be on the mono green version at the moment, which I think is the best list to run. There's a lot of Field of Ruin effects in Modern at the moment. So I think being able to maximize, your sort of basic land count against those sort of decks is very important. But I play the green-red version just because in Canberra we have like a fair bit of affinity, sort of a lot of low to the ground, sort of aggressive creature decks. So I was running Pyroclasms, for a bit because I just think they're probably a little bit better against those sort of decks. But in this list that James is playing, I'm trying out some copies of Abrade instead. So I'd be keen to see how those sort of play out for him.
Yeah, it seems reasonable. I mean, Pyroclasm, they're definitely two very different spells, but I think being able to have the option of shooting down one creature main board or an artifact, it actually provides you with a little bit more utility.
Yeah, absolutely.
As opposed to just, I hope my opponent's playing a bunch of creatures.
Yep.
And Zachary showed his hand recently, but as far as we're aware, it was a Sakura Tribelder and a Valakut and a bunch of lands. So
sounds like your average Titan Shift deck.
Yeah, that's right.
Nothing special.
So for anyone who doesn't know, Dan, why don't you run us through Titan Shift?
Well, basically, aim of the deck is to get to approximately 7, 6, 7, 8 lands. Cast either a Primeval Titan or a Scapeshift. Mm-hmm. Search up Valak at the Molten Pinnacle and 7 mountains.
Yep.
And just 18 your opponent or more, depending on how many mountains you search up.
Yeah. So the interaction between Scapeshift and Valakut, for anyone who doesn't know, is that when you sacrifice, basically the idea is to sacrifice 7 lands, and you would get a Valakut and 6 mountains. The mountains all see each other enter at the same time, so you end up getting 18 damage if I'm not mistaken. So if you do it like that, it's Valakut deals 3 damage whenever a mountain enters the battlefield, but only if you control 5 or more than 5 mountains. So they all see each other enter at the same time, and then they just sort of go off from there. So you got to be very careful with the Scapeshift mass because you actually get 6 different triggers, and however you shoot them is kind of up to you. So you can go 3 at face, 3 at this creature, 3 at this creature. So Scapeshift's not just a I win card, but also could be a board wipe. Yeah,
and Zach's going to need to at least get 1 more mountain here because, typically 18's enough in Modern because a lot of decks, fetch shock, deal damage to themselves in a number of ways, whereas Tron's definitely not going to be doing any of that anytime soon. There's no dismembers in this deck. So there's probably, he's just going to have to full 20 him.
Yeah, it actually puts you at a disadvantage because you have to get that extra land drop.
Yep.
It looks like Zack is prioritizing his basic forests at the moment. Possibly just looking out for making sure that he hits that 5 mountain count, but it's also possible that his hand is just not very red heavy.
There's just enough, but there's, if you're casting Scapeshift, there's still enough mountains in your deck. You don't cast Scapeshift and miss on mountains, so it's a little interesting the triple forest line here, but we'll see how it goes for him. James just casting a Chromatic Sphere into an Ancient Stirrings.
This looks like a pretty great hand for Tron. I mean, no turn 1 exhibition map, but he is going to be able to fix his mana, cast an Ancient Stirrings, refix his mana again next turn, draw a couple of cards in the process, Pretty reasonable thing for a Tron player to do.
This is a growth spasm here from Zack. It's a bit of an interesting inclusion, but it's 2 colorless and a green for a sorcery. Search for a basic land, put on the battlefield tapped, and create an 0/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion. So it's a really interesting, sort of way to maximize value off the 4 copies of Bloodbraid Elf that he's playing in his deck.
Yeah, very, definitely worth mentioning. And as you were talking about off screen, is that this list specifically is actually very much trying to capitalize off that Bloodbraid Elf. So being able to play 4 Bloodbraid Elf, means that you really kind of want to make those 3 drops pretty influential. So being able to cast the Slag Storm, he has a Rex Sage in his main board as well. Growth Spasms, as we saw just then, and then it makes it feel a little bit better as opposed to maybe casting a Farseek or a Lightning Bolt.
Yeah, and this Worm Coil here for James is going to be very, very helpful. Just trying to bump him up over a reasonable amount of life for the Valakut player to strike him down from. If he can get in 2 consecutive hits with that, I'm going to say the game's pretty much in James's sort of bag here.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, it looks like Zack's gone straight for that Primeval Titan. Is really setting himself up for a big Scapeshift hit. So what do we got? We got six lands on the battlefield now, plus the 2 that he's going to get. Next turn, he can, if he has a Scapeshift in hand, he'll be able to just one-shot James, hopefully, if that math works out correctly.
Yeah, for sure.
He does also have the option of chump blocking with the Scion and then sacrificing it, so James doesn't gain any life.
Yep. Yeah. Then swing through the Titan, and then Titan plus Scapeshift is 100% lethal here.
Yeah, 100%.
See what James gets up to this turn, however. That's an Ulamog in... Oh boy. That's Ulamog mana plus Ulamog.
Yeah, look, it's going to be probably a pretty uphill battle for Zack here.
Yeah. See if Zack sacks it.
Yeah, it looks like he knows what he's doing, which is good. So, yeah, we're just going to... Oh, I suppose not.
Nope. Sack it.
Okay, about it. So... I think this is James just confirming that did you block or did you block? And Zachary's saying yeah, sure. So a little bit of a oversight on Zach's part, but that's okay. When you're wheeling and dealing with Scapeshift mana, you're probably okay to just 1 million your opponent in one turn.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Ulamog's probably going to seal the deal here.
Yeah, this is quite the board.
Yeah, definitely getting Titan and a land here is very, very strong.
We'll see what comes out of it. I mean, he could play the Valakut, and he definitely has a Valakut in hand. I'm not 100% sure about whether or not he's got a Scapeshift, but if he did, he's might not be over yet, but it's definitely going to be an uphill struggle. Like, the funny thing as well is that this is actually not a great matchup for Tron, considering these like exile effects that you have on turn 3 or turn 4. They're like not that influential because you're probably just going to get 2 lands.
Yeah, Jack's just going to scoop it off. He's realizing he can't beat probably... Like, I mean, an Ulamog attack also removes X number of mountains from his library as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which sort of reduces his ability to Scapeshift out. But
all right, going into sideboards, what do we have, Dan?
So for Zack, we've got 1 copy of Grafdigger's Cage, 2 Damping Spheres, 2 Tireless Trackers, a single copy of Thragtusk, 2 Thron the Last Trolls, an Anger of the Gods, 2 Pithing Needles, 2 Fracturing Gusts, and 2 copies of Reclamation Sage. And for James on Green Red Tron, we've got 3 copies of Nature's Claim, 3 Thragtusks, 2 Thought-Knot Seers, 2 Relic of Progenitus, 2 Warping Whales, 1 Life from the Loam, 1 Pithing Needle, and 1 copy of Emrakul the Promised End.
Yeah, cool. And you took Emrakul the Promised End to the PPTQ, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Oh, there's the big unit there. I did. The highlight was casting it against a taking turns player, taking their turns and then losing after they took their next turn. So that was a little bit interesting, yeah. But
at least you got to take your opponent's.
Yeah, absolutely. Turns. Like 100% got the flavor win there, which was highlight.
Sometimes
of the day.
More important.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's a doghouse matchup anyway. Like trying to beat turns is just
pretty hard.
It's rough, yeah.
It looks like James is going for a Thought-Knot Seer and 2 Warping Whales, and then possibly the other Thought-Knot Seer. Not 100% sure, but being able to attack Zack's hand with the
for sure.
with the Thought-Knot Seer is probably what he wants to be doing.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Especially like Warping Whale also counters Escape Shift, counters Growth Spasm. The sort of the under the sorcery speed spells like what are they?
Well, you got Farseek and Slagstorm and Scapeshift. Search for Tomorrow as well.
Yeah, sure.
The only two different instances of instance for Zack is Summoner's Pact and Lightning Bolt. So and as we see here, Zack's taking out almost all his lightning bolts.
Yeah, okay.
Not interested. Bring in some Tireless Trackers.
Yeah, definitely bought in Tireless Trackers. It's argument to be made for Thragtusk. It's a resilient threat that kills a Khan down tick. What else has he got? Damping Sphere obviously seems
like a
quite trivial,
yeah.
Sideboard in. Pithing Needle as well, there's an argument to be made for. You can name Khan.
So it looks like he's bringing the Pithing Needles, the Damping Sphere, and the Tireless Tracker. Not 100% sure about the Tireless Tracker, but I suppose it's good to just maximize your different threats that you have. So like if you can't win with if the game goes long or he can't win with Scapeshift immediately, then at least he has a backup plan.
Absolutely.
You see a lot of land strategies in Legacy play that sort of idea as well, where they just they'll bring in a tireless tracker just in case they get surgical. They like can make a giant.
Yeah, absolutely. It's still just a decent beater. Like really, high amounts of value come from it. Normally
absolutely.
when I'm playing against land-based decks, I'll bring in my Life from the Loam to deal with, like being able to Ghost Quarter Life from the Loam is really, really good against a few decks, but not really against Titan Shift. So it's good to see James not bringing it in here.
Yeah, I think like the sheer amount of basics that Zack will be playing, 7 mountains and 3 forests, as well as just the fact that Zack will also be putting 2 lands on the battlefield each turn, and you can only get rid of 1, so the math doesn't quite work out on that one. So
it's just not a high enough payoff.
Yeah. This hand's pretty interesting. I see a Grove of the Burnwillows and a Grove of the Burnwillows and the Sylvan Scrying, and then a couple of big payoff cards, Chromatic Sphere and a Tower. So
I think this is definitely a mulligan for James.
You think? Did we not see anything?
There's just one Tron piece. Like there's a few redraws, but you sort of like the issue with having like one Tron piece Sylvan Scrying or one Tron piece map is like you sort of don't know. You want to be able to complete Tron. You don't want to be fetching for a particular Tron land in the dark,
hoping that you get the
absolutely because that's how luck goes. You search for the mine and then you draw the mine next turn. You're like,
yeah, whoops. yeah, absolutely.
I think James is keeping.
It looks like he very well might. Well, at least he does have the power of It might be a Ghost Quarter in his hand as well, but at least he has the power of Star and Sphere
it's a slow road to Tron. He does have the Scrying and a map, so he will definitely get Tron this game. But
at
if
one
it's
point,
fast enough, we'll see.
We'll see. It looks like Zack has taken a bit of a beating on the old mulligan plan. We didn't see his previous hands, but I think he's gone all the way down to 4, if I'm not mistaken. But this is his second mulligan. And then he might go down one more time depending on what his hand is. So.
I'm unsure of how the Titan Shift deck mulligans, Tron mulligans very, very well. Like you can comfortably mull to 5, but not really sure about the Titan Shift deck.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is that you still like your deck. Most of your cards kind of do the same thing.
The
Farseek and the Search for Tomorrow. Like you're still like achieving the same goal. You just like hope to top deck a little bit better.
For sure.
Oh, this hand is not good. We have a. We have one forest and Bloodbraid Elf, and then a couple of bits and pieces, but it might not be good enough.
There was a Search for Tomorrow. There's an argument in keeping it. Otherwise,
yeah, I mean, there's a Rex Sage in there as well, but I think he thinks it's too slow. Like
it is. You can't stumble on mana against Tron. Otherwise, they'll just take you off your 1 or 2 remaining lands with a Khan, and then it's left, right, good night. But
yeah, exactly.
You need to be able to cast your threats. You need to be able to put a clock. If you're not clocking Tron, like what are you doing?
It's pretty hard. Like there's been a whole lot of argument about disruption pieces because I mean all Tron decks play Nature's Claim on the side. Like that's just a staple. But the reason that it's so good is it only costs 1 mana. So if your like control player is playing like a Blood Moon on turn 3, you're like, oh, well, that kind of sucks. But like eventually I'm gonna get back and get the Nature's Claim and like. You can't like spend too many resources or like keep a bad hand because it has that 3 mana disruption spell for your Tron player because they'll just like run over the top of you. Yeah,
for sure. No, Nature's Claim's definitely, in my opinion, the best card in the sideboard. Like it deals with Stony Silence, Blood Moon, Damping Sphere, Alpine Moon if people are playing it. It deals with like everything out of being able to vindicate your affinity opponent for 1 mana is really, really good. Being able to gain life against Burn is really, really good. Being able to destroy Spreading Seas is really good.
Yeah.
It's just got a lot of utility. Being able to blow up your own Worm Coil in response to a Path to Exile. It's just... Nature's Claim is a very versatile card.
Yeah, 100%. I'm not... how do you feel about Alpine Moon, by the way?
I guess it's okay in the mirror. I haven't tried it out. I know there's a few people in Canberra who are trying it. But, I'm not sure. I don't think they've had good or bad experiences really to talk about.
Not enough to test yet.
Yeah.
Oh no, poor Zack. This is a very, very small hand to keep, but he did get the Search for Tomorrow on turn 1, so
That's
it might
good.
be enough. I think the argument for Alpine Moon is that it only costs 1 mana.
Yeah.
Like it does the same thing as Damping Sphere, pretty much.
But
it costs 1 less. So when you're talking about like when you're talking about aggressive strategies, like say you're playing Naya Zoo or you're playing Burn or even Affinity possibly would be like turn 1 Alpine Moon, and then creature, and then like that's just enough to stop you from
Absolutely. I mean,
it.
like that's the thing. Like you can, you know, if you just apply a sort of like land hoser against Tron and then don't back it up with a threat, you're still going to lose.
Yeah.
Being able to
Worm Coil on turn 6.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, Tron can turn into a really decent mid range deck and still just beat you out of it. But like, that's why I think if Alpine Moon is going to be good, it's going to be good in sort of like fastish decks that can apply a clock.
Yeah, 100%.
But I'm not too keen on it.
I can even actually probably see it in a like a control deck, maybe blue red control, because it's just like play it on turn 1 and then protect it for the rest of the game. Like you have like mana leak or whatever, so you're just like countering nature's claims.
Yep.
Just a consideration, but I think it'll definitely require more testing.
Yeah, like I think the interest in running it in Tron would be for either like you said, Valakut decks. Just being able to name Valakut's pretty good. It's also the effect isn't symmetrical, so you can name your opponent's Tron lands, which is pretty spicy.
Yeah. The speaking of utility in sideboard cards, the damping sphere is pretty good because it kind of also hoses Storm. So if your meta isn't like that heavy,
James needs to pay 2 for that map.
Interesting. Yeah, Zack's not going to let him get away with it.
Yeah, absolutely ruthless on Zack's behalf.
Yeah, no, 100% reasonable thing to do. If having the Ghost Quarter up is probably good enough by itself. The consideration for Damping Sphere is definitely like people are playing it. I mean, we're seeing it played right now, but like it's good because it has that utility of like kind of getting 2 decks. Like instead of like just hosing one or just hosing the other, like you can kind of like protect yourself a little bit.
Thought Not See is pretty interesting here from James. What do we take here? The Bloodbraid Elf?
I guess they're just going for it. Leaving the Scape Shift in hand. The Bloodbraid Elf sees value pretty much immediately and then more value. But, I mean, it depends on, like, what he hits. I mean, obviously it always depends on what he hits, but...
like, Zack's not going to Scape Shift with 4 lands,
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So Scape Shift isn't affecting him anytime soon, so James feels like it's probably okay to just let it happen.
Yep.
But, it looks like he's pretty happy with taking that Bloodbraid Elf. I would be as well, like... If you hit something like if it was Lightning Bolt and then you swing in like Thought Not Seer, just like can't attack.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, sorry, you can't block, so you're getting like a little bit more damage or something like that. But
Thought Not Seer is really good here into the Damping Sphere. Just being able to sort of like bridge the gap between your larger threats. Just keep you just stabilizing enough so that you don't really sort of get beaten down by like sort of an anemic Bloodbraid Elf or something.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we're just continuing to just slowly play out cards from our hand. The I've never seen a Tron player take so long to find Nature's Claim, so something that comes with time, maybe.
Absolutely. Not cracking the sphere was a little bit interesting. I'm not really sure what's in James's hand, but searching for probably another Tron piece here. If he finds the...
I can only assume... the Grove of the Burnwell is pretty reasonable. I mean...
unless he kept some Abrades in.
Yeah, maybe.
That'd be quite interesting.
We'll see. It might just be good to just have that... Just have the access to the red mana just in case for future reference. Yeah. But Tron lands aren't really doing that much at this point, so he's probably okay with just laying back on the Tron lands for now. But do you have any thoughts or considerations about just continually putting Tron lands onto the battlefield?
It's fine. You just want to put lands on the battlefield. Like, under a Damping Sphere, it doesn't really matter. You just, like, any lands are good lands. So,
yeah, sure.
In this scenario, unless you actively have red spells left in your deck, there's no reason not to be searching just for Forest or Tron lands.
Okay.
Argument could be made for Sanctum of Ugin as well. If you're just going to cast your 7, if you're just going to cast your Karn and then just get a Worm Coil and play that next turn as well, that's still, turn 7, turn 7 Karn, turn 6 turn 8 Worm Coil as well is still... very good.
Yeah, 100%. And we're saying what we were mentioning before about how you have to play fast. Here comes Escape Shift. Speaking of which, we have 4 lands to pay for it. 5, 6, 7. So he's just going to sack the whole 7. Unfortunately, to get the win on 7, you need to get a Valakut and 6 lands, which would be 18. So it's not quite enough yet, as what we were talking about before about Scape Shift's players having a little bit of extra time against fat shock decks because they're on like 15 or whatever by themselves. But James is staying on a pretty easy 20 right now. He's counting out his mountains, seeing what he can possibly get. So he's got one Valakut. He'll have a couple more triggers on the stack. He's got the second Valakut.
It's probably just feasting his mana.
This, yeah, it's definitely an interesting line because they're not all going to see each other enter the battlefield at the same time.
And there's not enough either.
And there's not enough, but it seems to be good enough for James to just scoop it up. Yeah, I think James didn't see the line. So at this point, the scape shift from Zack's side, and I did talk to him after about it because I was like, "Hey, you know that wasn't double scape shift," and he was like, "Oh yeah, I know. I just like was hoping to spend the rest of the time top decking like lands so that I could double trigger scape shift, kill the
that
worm
wasn't
coil."
lethal.
It wasn't lethal, no, and it actually didn't trigger anything.
Yeah, because there's only was 2 scape shifts, 5 mountains.
Yeah, so you need the 6th mountain is what makes it go off.
5.
Yeah, to see the other 5. So unfortunately, James didn't really see that line.
Hasty scoop there from James, especially with the worm coil engine. You know, keeping him safe from one.
Keeping him pretty alive. Yeah. I'm wondering, even in that situation. So as I said before, Zack was saying that he gets 2 scape shifts and 5 mountains. So every time he plays a mountain after that,
2 Valakuts.
Valakuts, yeah, sorry. So every time he plays a mountain after that, he'll be able to 6 any of James' creatures and kind of play the control game after that.
Absolutely.
Shooting down Thought Not Seers and worm coils and stuff. But I'm not even sure that's the correct line. Like, you get the original 18 if you just go straight for the Valakut line after that, and all you have to do is just find
one
the
more
next
mountain.
one more mountain.
He cracks in with the worm coil, and then he's still back up to he's back up to 8 or whatever, and then your life becomes a little bit more difficult. Like, I don't mind the line that Zack took,
especially because his opponent conceded.
Yeah, I mean, like, it was the winning line in the end. But, I guess I would have just waited until you can get just a large escape shift, I think.
Yeah, it's also like I think maybe James was possibly at a disadvantage because from my knowledge, I don't think he's played against Time Shift too much. It's not really a prominent deck in the meta. I mean, one has existed for a while, and then like Zack has just started to pick it up because he liked the deck.
Yeah, he does enjoy it, yeah.
So he very much enjoys those land-based strategies. He's a Tron player as well, so he's bringing it back, but unfortunately, his opponents will get that little bit of less value because he'll have to. You'll have to remember the interactions between Valakut and Scape Shift.
Sure. Ancient Stirrings here from James. What do you think about Ancient Stirrings in modern, Angus?
Look,
got any hot opinions?
Some hot takes.
Speaking of hot, that's an Urza's Factory in the Ancient Stirrings pile for James.
The absolute spiciest
absolutely
thing I've ever seen.
So yeah, what do you think?
I think if they were going to ban anything, it's probably going to be Ancient Stirrings. Like, not really a hot take, but
sure.
It's just like Tron is tier 1, and that's actually not a bad thing as well.
Sure.
Like, people are like, oh, Tron's too strong or whatever, but if they just wanted to knock it down a peg, then sure, just like ban Ancient Stirrings. It is the best cantrip in the format, which is like best tutor or whatever if you want to think of it that way. But like. We'll see. I think we have to wait and see what KCI brings to the table because, yes, Matt Nass won 2 GPs with it.
I mean, it's Matt Nass. He could win with like a draft deck.
Yeah, exactly.
He's quite good.
He, I'm pretty sure there was a KCI in the top 8 of the Pro Tour.
I think there was. It was 2 humans, KCI, and... what else?
Some other stuff. There was Blue Moon as well.
Yeah.
Hardened Scales. Was Hardened Scales Affinity in there, or was that just dreaming?
It's a pretty good dream.
Yeah, that's right. I'll take it. But it's like it didn't dominate. Like the thing with KCI is that if everyone started playing it and their win percentage was super high, then yeah, maybe consider banning it.
Sure.
But because it's just like Matt Nass and crew got very, very good at the deck, figured out all of the different lines, and then people were like, oh, this deck looks like fun, and then just like cannot play it optimally.
Yeah, deck's just quite difficult to play. Like, I've got no intention of ever picking it up. Like, man, it's a really cool deck.
It's a fun deck, but it's definitely it's probably just bad for the format overall. I mean, I don't know how much Wizards really care about or how Wizards feels about goldfishy type decks. Like if Storm is stronger, then like maybe they consider that.
I mean, Storm
like,
also wins in a reasonable amount of time, and it's
true.
like usually deterministic, whereas sometimes with KCI you can sit there, spin your wheels for 5 to 10 minutes, okay, pass,
Yeah. It doesn't happen often though. That's the thing. I think that it actually sits in the realm of lantern control a little bit more, because it's just like, am I dead? And you look at your opponent and you're like, oh, like maybe. I'm like, I've definitely played KCI once or twice just to like test it out because it looked like fun. Like, why not?
Yep.
And you know, I was versing my opponent and they're like, am I dead? Because I'll scoop. And I was like, honestly, I have no fucking idea.
I just don't know.
I just have no idea. So it's just like, you know, that type of uncertainty, and that happens in lantern control as well, where it's just like you kind of hold on to hope because it's like you're still in the game.
A lot of the sort of liability of lantern control is like relying on your opponent scooping, which they should know when to do. But sometimes, you know, when they've got two shredders, the lantern of insight, bridge, etc., you know, War of Invention in hand, you're just like, oh no, I'll draw out of it. You know, you're just done.
Yeah. So I've been guilty of it before as well, because
I think we all have.
Like, if you have Ancient Grudge and they like misdo their Pixis, so they like exile something and then there's an Ancient Grudge on top and then they mill it and then I can exile their thing and they're you know, it's just like there's tiny little minuscule lines, but like it's just not realistic, you know. But anyway, back to the potential of banning those types of cards. Like, it's a similar deck to KCI in the fact that no one's really playing Lantern Control very much anymore. Yeah,
I just think maybe KCI is sort of the better Degenerate Mox Opal deck at the moment. What do we see here? Zack's definitely bought it in the 2 tireless trackers. He's had the Damping Sphere since turn 2. Yeah, I think he's just shuffled his sideboard cards. To be fair, James has also seen his sideboard cards as well. He got the Urza's Factory there.
Yeah, that's right.
Soon to put out some value. Give it 4 more turns. And we'll see some 2/2s.
Is this your spice, or is this something that's...
Oh, no, James O'Rourke actually suggested it to me. He told me he'd buy me a foil Urza's Factory if I'd play it. So I was like, all right, sure. I'll give it a go.
Was he doing it as a joke, or did he
No, he's been playing it for a very long time.
What's his rationale?
It's just good. It's like not Ayavugan, but it's better than nothing. It's like just being able to like make 2/2s, like pressure blockers, whatever. It's just good.
I think I saw at one point you were versing your a U-White control player, and they had Geist of Saint Geist on the battlefield, Saint Draft, and there was like
7 mana moat. Yeah, just being able to just continuously pop out blockers. That's the name of the game.
Yeah, that was pretty funny, I gotta say.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Urza's Factory. I was a little hesitant to get on the hype train for it, but card's actually really good.
Here we are.
It's better when you've got you like scryings and maps to burn and nothing else to do. You can just get your the pressure machine out going.
And the off-screen, the magical hand of the off-screen cameraman pointing out that Zack also has to pay for his Damping Sphere. Classic two Sakura Tribe Elders, and then a hand comes up and taps the mountain and it becomes tapped.
Not cracking any of those clues is really interesting. Getting like both trackers up to like a 5/4 or a 6/5 or whatever, and just like you just gotta attack into Tron. You can't let him cast his Worm Coils. So I think, there's just an abundance of clues. I think, getting aggressive with the trackers early is what you need to do, I think.
He's definitely decided to take a different line in which he would accumulate these, and then, like, he's just got, he's just got cards to draw if he needs to, but, he's still going to play out all the cards in his hand and make sure that he's using his mana the most efficiently, and if he has 2 mana here or there, he'll crack a clue and draw a card, but it doesn't look like he's got any intention of attacking anytime soon. I guess attacking into a Worm Coil.
Yeah, you can't attack into the Worm Coil, but when it was just the Thornot Seer on board for 2 turns, I think you definitely need to put the pressure onto Tron. Otherwise, what's Damping Sphere to 7 lands? Still going to cast Makan.
Yeah, exactly.
Etc. Like
the
definitely needs to turn off the heat.
Zach bringing up the as many clue tokens as he could possibly find, but ran out. So probably true.
The big man, the big old number 2 dice.
the big old 2 dice. That's right. The footage dice that I had to coerce people all day to use. Though they have their dice bags and they have all their accessories and stuff, and they go to put their tiny little D6 on their creature. I'm like, please use big dice.
I guess James not attacking with the Worm Coil is interesting as well. Like if Zack blocks, great. That's 1 less threat on the table. But Zack's not going to win this game by attacking with creatures.
Yeah.
It's going to be through a big scape shift, and buffering your life total, I think, on James's part is sort of necessary.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Because he could have just lost to a top deck scape shift just then. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 lands in play. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Well, at least the Rex Sage coming down will be able to help him out a little bit. Making sure this Wormcoil provides a little bit less value.
Yeah, for sure. A little less life gain.
And it looks like he's drawing another card. We had a little bit of a funny thing happen with the dice. So he put it onto 1, and then he took the dice off 1 to signify that he was going to 0 clues. But it doesn't quite work that way. So, yeah. Quick to point it out. Make sure he doesn't get blasted in the YouTube comments, which is very relevant.
Always up for a good blasting.
Yeah, that's right. Well, he's definitely accumulating these lands. So scape shift at any point will be lethal.
Like watching an episode of Scooby Doo. Look how many clues there is. Oh wow!
You'd think he'd figure out what the mystery was at this point.
Not yet.
Alright, well here's the infamous turn 7 Khan, as we've seen many times before. Demisphere's been doing some great work over the last 2 games.
Right, yeah.
Haven't seen these you know what? He didn't bring in Nature's Claims game 2, did he? I wonder if his sideboard changed. Because he brought in he definitely brought in Warping Whale and Thought-Knots here, but I guess in the blind you probably just play it safe and bring in a Nature's Claim.
I think if you're going to bring anything in post-board, you because I'm pretty sure James knows Zack's not running the Prismatic Omen version of Scape Shift.
Okay.
So I think you could keep your Abrades in. It deals with Damping Sphere itself. It deals with Bloodbraid Elf, Tireless Tracker. I guess you can double Abrade a Primeval Titan. Deals with Clue tokens. So I think Abrade would probably be better to keep in here.
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely see that.
I don't think he's bought in the Nature's Claims. Not triggering Sanctum of Ugin.
Yeah, not triggering Sanctum of Ugin. Not getting rid of the Damping Sphere. So I mean,
he doesn't have Tron. Oh, he does have Tron assembled. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. He has Tower and 2 mines.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the sneaky tower mine sort of art. Yeah,
it's a good way to mice people is to have the old mismatching.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, do what you got to do.
People just always assume you have it on turn 3 anyway.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. So I think we saw Warping Whale and Ugin in hand, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe something else, but yeah, not triggering the Sanctum of Ugin. He might have done it intentionally to keep his mana high, knowing that he probably won't be able to get rid of the Damping Sphere.
He still needs to top deck 4 lands if he wants to cast that Ulamog. He's got to think. Is that a Relic in hand?
No.
Oh, it's a Warping Whale, sure.
Whale, yeah.
You 100% just crack the Sanctum there, because you can still play a Wormcoil the next turn.
Also pretty loose, not holding up Warping Whale for the rest of the game. He has the capability to just stop himself from losing immediately to Escape Shift.
Yeah, the Tireless Trackers wasn't that big of an issue.
Yeah, especially with these Wormcoil tokens.
But if you're going to do something there, you definitely sack the Sanctum of Ugin and search another Wormcoil, or even a Thought-Knot Seer.
Yeah, searching up a Wormcoil would have been good.
Yeah, because okay.
Unfortunately, James getting absolutely punished for not keeping up Warping Whale mana, having the Warping Whale in hand and having your opponent play this thing. But it's so hard, you have to choose
you have to make a move
you want to
somewhere.
play you can't just sit around forever hoping that you draw
down by 6/5s,
Yeah, because realistically, James would have to he just needed to fade Scape Shift for 1 turn, and then he could hold up what's his face Warping Whale for the rest of the game.
Yeah, for sure.
So I guess he just had to fade Scape Shift 1 turn, but realistically, with all the clues on the battlefield, it's not just one card you're fading. You're having to fade a few,
3 or 4 draw steps a turn.
Yeah.
It's pretty hard. Yeah, Zack was in a pretty good position for most of that game.
Interesting using the Tireless Trackers as the moat effects against James's strategy.
Yeah, it was an interesting choice. Not attacking with Wormcoil engines.
I guess as long as it's not attacking, it's accumulating value with the clues. Being able to just draw extra cards seems like a very good strategy.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I think both sides needed to get a little bit more aggressive in that, perhaps. Obviously, Zack maybe had the better late game, especially with the Damping Sphere on board. He knew it was going to be a lot harder for James to cast his Ulamogs and stuff.
100%.
Whereas he can just go, 8 mana Scape Shift you.
We did keep in the. It looks like he's fiddling with some Abrades. I maybe thought he might have taken them out, but he's definitely having a fiddle of the cards. to James's credit, like this wasn't exactly the best showing of Red Green Tron.
It's also the first time he's played it.
It was the first. I think it was the first match, but it might have been the first time that he played the deck. So you got to give a little bit of kudos to the man who never played Tron before.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Angus Mackay, and this has been Dan Schuler.
Hey.
And we'll see you next time.
See you guys.